Hello traders, welcome to another daily analysis. Today is actually Saturday already, just past 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll quickly recap what happened today since it's Friday, but then we'll also do a weekly analysis to see what's coming up next week. So first of all, today the learning session we have the German PPI data, which came out actually very positive than expected and previous. Of course, what happened to Germany right now is their export has decreased, since this 2016, but they're really what supported the economy is the domestic spending and consumptions. Now, anything happening in Euro right now is really tied to what's going to happen next to US. But ECB is going to have their decision by December whether they are going to extend their easing program. Now today we have an ECB Draghi speech, which pretty much he came out to confirm that the easing program will be continued since the inflation is still very low in Euro area. And of course, that's going to be a negative factor for Euro. And as I mentioned, right now, Euro is just not a whole lot of good pictures because of the Italian referendum next month. And you have two major countries' election, which is France and Germany. So France and Germany is going to have an election next year. Now it's going to cause a lot of unstableness within the Eurozone. Of course, the newly elected Donald Trump next year is going to be in office, so that's going to cause another turmoil. And on top of that, the third one is the Brexit with their negotiation. So right now, not a whole lot of, like I said, not a whole lot of good positive picture coming out from Euro area. Today in the New York session, we have core CPI and CPI from Canada, which pretty much came out in line. Now, what happened to Canada right now is, again, they are going to renegotiate the North American, I forgot the name, the North American deal, the one between Canada, Mexico, and US. So, as mentioned, of course, we don't know what's going to happen, but in Canada right now, it's really, again, they're looking ahead to see what the US is going to do. Right now, the Bank of Canada is really on hold about their further rate cut or any easing program, but they do signal actually 2 to 3 times already this year that they might have a further rate cut. And I think it's really directly result to what happened to the oil market. If by the end of this month, OPEC does not reach an agreement, that's going to tumble the oil price. Once the oil price dropped, then really what's left for Canada as an economy, the GDP sector, will really tie down to the already overheating real estate. Now, in order for them to make the real estate continue to boom out of these economic negativities, they will have to cut interest rate further. So we'll see what happened there. But again, it's quite a neutral stance just because the Bank of Canada are not going to do anything as for now. And FOMC member come out today saying that the rate hike it's good for the economy. Basically, it is coming. And yesterday we did have Yellen come out, pretty much saying that the rate is going to be rise very relatively soon. So right now, market has already priced in, pretty much confirmed that the December is going to have a rate hike. Right now, really what's going to shift the market is actually not all this fundamental data. It's really the policy, the political movement in Europe, in Britain, and in US, even in Japan. That's what happened nowadays, is really that the political really get into the economy, and we have to watch out to see what happened to the politicians' next movement, especially the new president, Donald Trump, and things like that. Equity market today have a mixed day. We have an Asian session all green, but European North American session all red. Now, dollar, of course, is once again the strongest currency right now. It's in the 13 years high. So, no surprise, but whether it is a good time to buy dollar, honestly, I think, for me personally, dollar is fundamentally strong, and it's going to be strong all the way into 2017. But I don't see any good position and level to buy. We'll take a look at more in the chart, but really what I'm trying to say is that don't get caught up in chasing the high. This is where the moment that a lot of people are going to lose money is when the market is overly optimistic, because really one president is not going to change too much, especially when he's not even in office. But right now the market has been too optimistic. It's like back then pre-exit, the market has been too optimistic and then too pessimistic, and that's just the case of market. That's where actually we have money to be made. Just always have this kind of emotions. So right now the market is too optimistic, so I wouldn't suggest you to buy dollar in this short-term area. But whenever there's a pullback, definitely will be a good chance to buy into a US dollar. But of course, we'll take a look at the chart later on. And then that's pretty much it. Then of course the OPEC meeting seems to be quite positive, just because it seems that they are going to give Iran a special deal. And back then Iran was a stumble block, which is that basically he has the biggest problem to reach this oil output cut. But now it seems like OPEC members are willing to give Iran a special deal. And of course, once they agree on that, then they will really maybe meet an agreement to curb the oil output. But again, don't hold your breath. I really don't know what's going to happen in OPEC. But analysts say that if they don't meet the agreement, then the oil price might tank to $40 per barrel. So we'll see below $40 per barrel. Right now we're at around 45 today. So we'll see what happens. Of course, that's going to affect Canadian dollar a lot. And then right now, I'm going to really just get into the chart and go line by line to tell you what's going to happen. So let's take a look at the 28 currency pair first. So take a look at euro dollar, and we're going to a weekly chart later on as well. So first, euro pound. Okay. So what happened to euro pound? As you can see, a continued decreased momentum, a continued downside of the euro dollar. Right now, even the British pound has a better strength than euro dollar, and the reason is because we have seen that the PPI data from Britain, from UK, was actually a large rise. That means because of their currency lost so much value, now everything they buy, they import, become very expensive. So they are going to actually surpass the inflation target of 2%. Analysts say that they are probably going to be at 3.5% by 2018. Now, that's going to be a very tough situation for the Bank of England. It's because this surge of inflation has nothing to do with a booming of economy. It has everything to do with the currency exchange rate. So right now their hands are tied. If they cut rate further, the inflation going to shoot up more. But if they don't cut the rate, then they have no way to stimulate the economy. So what is the central bank going to do? Nobody knows. So that's why I say in UK right now, people are still waiting to see. But generally speaking, they are not in a really good spot, because on top of that, next year they really have to start negotiating with the euro. So a lot of unstableness into a British pound. But regardless of that, they are actually have a better sentiment than Eurozone, because right now you can pretty much say that the worst has been shown in UK. Brexit was the worst case for UK, and it has been quite digested by traders and investors. So now it's already a fact. It's like a sunk cost. It's already done. So right now, there you can say that they are really in this deep bottom of shit right now. So nothing will make them look worse, and that's why people are kind of saying that unless something really really bad happen, otherwise, the worst has been shown in UK. On the other hand, in Euro, they have two major elections next year, so we don't know what's going to happen in Euro. So Euro actually have a more uncertainty than UK, and that's why you're seeing this situation right now that British pound actually has more momentum than Euro. But for me, they both are negative, so I'm not going to do anything about it. So it's not worthwhile for me to short or buy either of the currency, just because they both are fundamentally negative, fundamentally bearish for me. Now, of course, let's take a look at weekly. So the weekly perspective, you can still see that after this huge surge up, really euro dollar start losing momentum. If you put a little bit line here, You really actually broke down this incredible, very important support, and now it does look like it's going to keep going down. You even actually, if you really draw this trend line here, you actually really like it does look like it's going to go down. Now, why do I want to short it? Again, they both are equally negative, so it's just not for me to pick up currency pair. It's really depend on what's the strongest one and what's the weakest one. So for me, that's what I want to target on, because I don't want to spread out my risk capital. So for me, euro and pound really fundamentally, sentimentally speaking, just not a good pair to do any daily trade. But if you want to play day trade, intraday trade, of course that's a different story. You can always make some quick buck into that. Okay, so let's take a look at Euro Swiss. Now Euro Swiss, again, I continue to see euro dollar losing strength. But today, the SNB actually, I forgot, it's even a governor or one of the member, they actually saying that the negative interest rate of Switzerland is going to continue, and that they see nothing wrong with to keep interest rate negative. Basically, they're saying that it's fine to sacrifice the pension fund. For them, they're saying that it's not their fault, it's the global low interest market. So, as I mentioned, SNB has really little credit nowadays, but it seems that nobody is opposed their low interest rate, even their pension fund. And I don't know whether it's because the citizens are too rich, but nevertheless, they don't care about low interest rate, and it looks like they are going to continue this low interest rate market, if providing that Eurozone still have a low interest rate. So even though United States might raise the interest rate, as long as the Euro kept its interest rate low, then you're not going to see Switzerland raise their interest rate anytime soon. So because of that, they are still a negative interest rate. They are still a bearish currency to buy. However, as I mentioned, when times are tough, they are a pretty good safe haven currency. But because of their interventions, I generally would not buy Swiss franc at all. So Euro Swiss really not a whole lot of thing to talk about. We can go to weekly chart, and then again, you really pretty much just in this range area. Nothing too excited about this pair, All right, last one is euro dollar. So okay, look at euro dollar. You actually continue to drop since the election. It goes as high as 1.13. Right now, all the way dropped to 1.05, 1.06. That's just amazing. This is like within 10 days, you have about 600 pips of drops. This is such a huge movement for euro dollar. Now, as I mentioned, long-term perspective, yes, it is going to keep drop, but you gotta understand the currency market is never gonna be a straight line. So next week, don't be surprised to see any pullback, and it might come very, very soon, or it might drop further. But nevertheless, I wouldn't recommend you to short this pair at this moment. Wait for a sort of reversal pullback, then you can find out an area to short, at least for a daily perspective. If we continue to drop next week, definitely during the session, you can scalp few pips here and there. But in terms of long term, in terms of the daily trade, I don't see anything right now, and I'm really looking forward to see some green candle to bring this thing up for us to short again. Let's take a look at weekly. Again, huge. If you're looking at weekly, it's not that big picture, but still a quite significant thing. You have this candle and now you drop. But understand, like I said, there is very strong support right here at 1.05. So don't be surprised to see things keep going up. And then really don't have anything right now. So really at this moment, I would just say, try to be patient, because if you short right now, you really have more risk than reward. And if you're just willing to wait a little bit longer, then you have a better chance to short this again. But of course, euro dollar, definitely a pair to short. Now, Euro Aussie actually have an update for euro dollar. Now, interesting about Australian dollar is this. Fundamentally, they are doing very well. Okay, I repeat, fundamentally, they are doing very well. Right now, I read the article today. Their GDP actually is growing. They haven't had any recession for the past 2 years. And try to remember what I read, but nevertheless, that their economy is actually picking up very well. Inflation is picking up very well. Housing market is picking up again, and the commodity has been in good demand from China. So, and the central bank RBA are not looking to ease any further. So very bright picture, fundamentally speaking, for Australian dollar. So exactly what happened this week? Well, what happened this week is that the commodity price has surged since 2 weeks ago, and that caused a lot of Chinese speculator. As you know, that China is the number one commodity buyers of Australia, so they bought a lot of iron ore from Australia. Then there's a huge amount of excessive cash right now from Chinese speculator. So what happens is that people think the commodity price is picking up real, and they start jumping in to buy a lot of commodity futures. So what happened is the Chinese government start to curb this kind of speculative activity. And as I mentioned, China is a communist country. What does that mean? Is that whenever the government says they're going to do something, it's going to be implemented basically very next day. So you don't need to go through any parliament. You don't need any sort of hearing to pass a law. Basically, when the official says something is going to be done, that become a law. So what happened is that they say they're going to curb and to stop the speculative into a commodity futures market. And that's what happened. So a lot of speculators start dumping the commodity futures, and that caused the commodity futures to tank for this week. And of course, that's dragged the Australian dollar down. So actually, that's a very good chance for us to buy into Australian dollar. As I mentioned, fundamentally, Australian dollar is very strong. We have a short period of sentiment negativity right now, but the Chinese speculator, whenever the things die down, they are going to go back again to speculate these things. So it's just a temporary drop. And when you have this kind of temporary drop, pretty much that gives you a very good opportunity to buy low. So right now, I'm once again looking to buy Australian dollar against other currency pair, but I'm looking for, of course, a reversal signal for me to get into it. But I'm very confident just because fundamentally it's very strong. We just need to avoid these short-term sentiment negativities. But just to give you a clear picture, that's why Australian dollar has been negative for this whole past week. So that's why you see Euro Aussie, it's pretty much the only pair that's going up. You see, if you look at EuroCAD, it's still going down. Sorry, I forgot to look at the weekly chart. So let's take a look at Euro Aussie weekly chart. You see, today you actually have a reversal signal. So of course, it's, like I say, not a good signal for me just because I don't have any space. As I mentioned, I do want to, for me, this is all just a range area. I like something like this. If you see, I like something like this candle where you have a lot of space. And then also like something like this where you have a lot of space, because it shows more strength that the price tried to reach a certain area that haven't been reached and then fail. So that's a very strong signal. But right now we are really just in a range bound. So not really a good area for me to long, but nevertheless, just telling you that fundamentally, don't be surprised to see Australian dollar picking up a strength very, very soon. So EuroCAD, as I mentioned, for Canadian dollar, it's really dependent on what happened to the oil market. But nevertheless, it's still a much stronger picture, the euro dollar. And the market generally right now price in to Canadian dollar for buy, because they do think the OPEC is going to reach a meeting. Now, that's what the market think. For me, I don't like to gamble that way, because OPEC has failed to reach agreement for many, many times before. So I really have no faith, and I don't want to bet either way. I don't want to short it. I don't want to long it. I'm just going to wait and see what happened for Canadian dollar. Look at the weekly for EuroCAD. Again, it was actually a huge drop for euro dollar. So for EuroCAD, it's really, wait a little bit. Right now it's November 19th, right? So it's really soon, you just have about 11 days, then you will know if they're going to reach agreement. And once they do reach the oil output cut agreement, then don't be, that will be the great chance for you to buy Canadian dollar. Okay, let's keep going. Let's take a look at Euro Newsy. So Euro Newsy, again, not too much talk about. It's really in a range area. Right? New Zealand dollar is really in this neutral stance right now. Of course, it's been a quite negative sentiment because of the US dollar. Now, why does I say that? It's back then people buy New Zealand dollar for one reason only. That is their high yield currency. That means they have a high interest rate, so it's always a good currency for carry trader. They're going to short low interest rate currency like Japanese yen, and then buy high interest rate currency like New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar. Now, because the US dollar is going to hike the interest rate, that will make New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar become less attractive. So that's why they are all both have a negative sentiment for Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. On top of that, New Zealand does not have strong enough economy than like Australia. So really what's holding them up is the high interest rate. And you have to see if their dairy product, the GDP price picked up. But if not, the New Zealand dollar, it's really more like a neutral currency. I will buy it against weaker currencies such as Japanese yen or euro dollar, but definitely depend on the sentiment. I only want to do it when it's a good sentiment. So right now, it's really nothing significant. Let's take a look at weekly chart. So weekly, again, you're really within this candle. It's just like sort of an inside bar. So really very small range, nothing in particular to do right now for Euro Newsy. Okay, finally, let's look at Euro Yen. Again, another update for Euro dollar and down day for Japanese yen. Like I said, the sentiment right now, because look at all the financial market, S&P, Dow Jones, and Nasdaq, all pretty much reaching a very all-time high. So it's a very risk-on sentiment environment. Of course, you're going to see safe haven currency like Japanese yen losing strength. On top of that, this week that the BOJ start their bond buying program for 10 years yield. Because of the Donald Trump elected, that caused a lot of bond market to tank. And when the bond price drop, we see a high yield. And for BOJ, their target is to make sure the 10 years bond yield remain at 0. So that's why when the bond yield goes up, they have to basically buy the bond to push the price up and reduce the yield. So that's what you're doing. And when they buy the bond, they are going to buy more bond, release more cash. When there's more cash, it's going to devalue the currency. So that's why you're going to see Japanese yen losing strength this week, probably all the way until next week. It really depends on the sentiment. But as for now, really not a good currency to buy. So it's always a good currency to short for this moment. And let's take a look at weekly. So same thing, a large buying power into. So of course, does that mean I'm going to buy Euro Yen? No, that means I'm going to short Japanese yen, but I'm not going to pick Euro dollar. I'm probably going to pick Australian dollar or US dollar. But of course, US dollar is very high right now, so I want to wait for a sort of pullback. All right, let's take a look at British pound. So pound Swiss, again, a very neutral stance versus Swiss franc. As I say, British pound, really right now, not even one economist have a certainty of whether the future is going to go. And the reason, like I say, if they ease, then they're going to make the inflation to go even higher. If they don't ease, they cannot stimulate the economy. On top of that, exactly what's going to happen to this Brexit thing, nobody knows. It's just a sort of political drama at this moment. Weekly, pound Swiss, you do have a large good candle, but right at this strong resistance area, right? So everybody can see. So again, not a good pair, not a good moment to buy. I'm pretty much not going to buy British pound for any weekly long-term perspective, but it's a good way to take a look. Now I had a short, cable back then, but I got out right here, and people might say, "Oh, you could have made 50 pips." Yes, but the thing is, I just don't like the picture. Like I say, you have 4 small losing candle that's not going anywhere. So even we have 123.51 today. Don't be surprised to see it goes up next week, because next week we might see some rebound for US dollar since it's been up for so many days. So next week, don't be surprised to see we retest the 25 again. So it's just not a good area for me to short, but definitely a good pair for me to look into short in the future if providing we have a better signal to enter. Take a look at weekly. So cable weekly, we do have a sort of bearish engulfing candle, not exactly, but sort of engulfing candle. Now, is that a good candle to enter? Actually, it's not bad to enter for a long-term perspective. But providing if you want to do that, make sure you put your stop loss way above this candle. So if you want to do it, you can put at 27.50 just to be safe, or put in here, and then looking forward to maybe profit. But really, for me, I just don't think it's in a good enough target zone to do weekly. But we'll see what happens. Right now, I don't think I will enter it just at this candlestick alone. There's no space. Like I say, I just don't like this kind of candlestick, and I do actually look into short maybe in the daily perspective, but I'm really hoping that it can go even higher to give me a more good position to enter. Now, cable Aussie will be a much better pair to short. You already have a 3 update which is losing momentum, and like I say, I do have a very strong confidence toward Australian dollar, and you are actually meeting at this strong resistance area. So Pound Aussie actually is not bad pair to short. Of course, I don't have anything today, but let's take a look at weekly. Maybe we'll find something. So weekly, we're still in this green area. So looking maybe to short around, but it's coming soon. Just have a few more patience. But it is certainly coming soon to short British pound by Australian dollar. This might be a much better position than cable. Now, pound CAD again, I'm not looking to do anything with Canadian dollar, just because the in 10 days more, that OPEC meeting might completely shift everything about Canadian dollar. So although we do have a good candle, but I'm really not looking to either short Canadian dollar or buy Canadian dollar. So just basically on fundamental perspective. And look at weekly again. Not a bad, it's sort of a bearish halami, but it's really fundamentally not a good pair for me to do anything about it at this moment. Now, Pound New Zealand is exactly same story as Pound Aussie. Looking a good area to short. We are at this critical resistance, but we want to wait for a better position. Basically, wait for a more negative catalyst to short British pound, or wait for a positive catalyst to buy New Zealand dollar. So either way. And finally, pound yen. Again, another continue up for British pound versus Japanese yen. And like I say, you have this small bearish kangaroo tail. And if you got in here to short, you would get stop out. And the reason, like I say, is that if you take into consider a fundamental factor, that you would never really short Japanese yen at this area, just because the market is such in positive sentiment. So you don't want to short Japanese yen into this market. But next week might providing some good opportunity. Let's take a look at weekly. Again, it's pretty much the same picture for British pound. Everything is up against the critical resistance, but we don't have a negative sentiment to buy Japanese yen at this moment. Now, Swiss franc, Japanese yen, really nothing much to talk about. You can tell that the Swiss franc is still way much stronger than Japanese yen, and generally speaking, it is not a bad signal, but really not good enough fundamentally for me to buy one against the other. And for me, I just don't want to buy Swiss franc at all. If I want to do anything about Swiss franc, I would rather sell it because of the SMB interventions. Now take a look at dollar pair. Now, of course, you're going to see huge buying power into US dollar. That's pretty much the basic picture for all the US dollar pair for this week. So if you look at weekly, it's going to show you the same thing. Now, whether that's going to be a good spot for me to long, definitely not. You are really up against this critical resistance. So again, US dollar, my strategy is waiting to long, but definitely wait for a much better pullback. Same thing as dollar CAD. I'm looking for it maybe giving a good pullback, and if the oil agreement is a failure, then you can definitely long dollar CAD again. But as for now, I don't have anything to do fundamentally for dollar CAD. It's just very risky, basically, just because the something that's going to shift the Canadian dollar or the oil market is coming in 10 days. Dollar yen, of course, continue to edge higher, and don't be surprised to see it keep going higher. Because if you look at big picture, you still have way more room to go. So definitely, you just passed this 200-day moving average. It's going to be a very good pair to long, but we just need a sort of pullback for us to get in. Now, same as here, you look at that huge buying power into dollar yen. So we just need a better position to get into this pair. Now, next one is Australian dollar. Again, I'm actually very looking forward to buy in Australian dollar. Why? Because everything is giving me, the lower it dropped, the better position it's going to give me. Basically, you have to think in like this. You really want buy low and sell high. So the more it dropped, the more market are selling it without any fundamental reason, the better chance you will have when a reversal comes. So Aussie Swiss, very good pair to buy, but of course we want to wait for a reversal. Not yet, still in the range area for weekly. Let's take a look at Aussie dollar. Now, Aussie dollar is probably the only pair I will refrain from buying, just because they both are very strong currency, and US dollar perhaps have a better strength than Australian dollar. So again, I'm not looking to buy it unless we have a very negative sentiment into the US dollar. Otherwise, waiting, not a good pair for me to buy, but definitely a good currency. Australian dollar is a good currency for me to buy. Aussie CAD, again, huge down there, and look at that, we are right at this critical support. So all this just tell me buy, good area to buy. But for Canadian dollar, still waiting for oil market. Again, if we fail that agreement by November 30, this is a great pair to buy into it. Look at weekly, same thing, we have a huge drop. So again, very good chance to buy into Australian dollar. Take a look at Aussie Newsy. Now, many of you know I have this trade that I got out yesterday. I should have actually got out here, but nevertheless, I got off with a little bit profit, and now if I didn't get out, I'll get a stop out break even anyway. So I got out just because I realized Friday people were going to keep shorting it, the Australian dollar, and I got out on Thursday just to make sure that's so it's a good analysis for my part, without looking at the chart. I just decided to get out because I feel that it's going to go down. So although we do have this reversal signal, but fundamentally I just feel like Australian dollar is in such a negative sentiment. Again, that only providing us a better opportunity to buy in next week or weeks to come. So don't be frustrated when a fundamental strong currency losing the strength because of the sentiment, because actually that's where the opportunity comes in. You are looking to buy a fundamental strong currency when a sentiment is negative, and then at the moment when the sentiment shift, is where the reversal signal gonna come in, and that's where you're gonna profit. And that of course require you to have a little bit patient. Again, this is a daily trade, so always don't be too rushed on these things. What our goal is to hit on that high winning rate, and really the only thing is to be very selective when the pair you choose. So right now, again, not a whole lot to talk about in the weekly chart. It's just in the range area for me. So let's take a look at Aussie yen. Look at that. Although Japanese yen has been largely short, but Australian dollar is even worse than the Japanese yen. And that just tell you how strong this dumping of commodity futures, how strong the sentiment is, for how negative the sentiment is for Australian dollar. So not anything particular right now on my plate, but nothing here for me to long, but definitely in my watch list for Australian dollar. Okay, let's take a look at Canadian dollar. Again, like I said, Canadian dollar right now, Really just looking for a better, right now again it's a good candlestick, but I'm really just looking for a better chance to long it. So because we have 10 days approaching the oil agreement of OPEC, so anything can drastically shift the oil market. So that's why I'm pretty much want to stay out of Canadian dollar for next week, because what you do right now is really just gambling, because something such huge thing is going to change. Same as this, Kayang, it's keep going up, but again, I don't want to buy into Canadian dollar or short into Canadian dollar at this point. And I know a lot of people are buying to Canadian dollar. Really, they're trying to buy in the rumor and sell the fact. So yes, if you think of that way, you'll say, hey, that's a good chance to buy into the rumor, sell the fact. So maybe if you think that way, you would want to buy Canadian dollar. But for me, there's no signal anyway. But for me, I just don't feel comfortable fundamentally to do that. And New Zealand dollar is in the same spot as Australian dollar. A very good currency pair to buy against a weaker currency, but we are waiting for that reversal sentiment and reversal signal in candlestick. New Zealand dollar, again, continue drop in daily and continue drop in weekly as well. Not really a currency I will short, but it's a currency I'll buy, but really not a good timing to buy right now. New Zealand CAD, again, losing its strength, but see, slowly finding out this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days of downward movement. So really, that just gave me a great opportunity to buy into New Zealand CAD, but maybe not yet. We just have to see what happened to Canadian dollar. But if besides oil market, if we don't even think about oil market, the Canadian dollar itself is really not in a good spot because of first of all, because the economy is not doing well. That's the first thing. Second thing is that if the US start this new trade deal with Canada, of course that's going to shift a lot of things for Canada. And third thing is that as long as the dollar keep going up, the oil is going to be pressured, because you know that oil is denominated by US dollar. So as long as the US dollar keep going up, and it will keep going up all the way into 2017. So that's going to produce a long-term pressure into the oil market. Of course, that can shift as long as the OPEC is willing to curb their oil, and as long as they can follow through. Let's take a look at New Zealand. New Zealand, again, it's an update for New Zealand dollar. And then that's pretty much it. Nothing too significant. It's just an update for New Zealand dollar because it's been a down day for Japanese yen. And then again, we are riding against this, 70 and 75, 200-day EMA right here. So, guys, that's pretty much it. To be honest with you, and I don't have any signal right now. And right now I'm flat. So I'm pretty much, my strategy for next week is to see whether we're going to see any pullback for the US dollar. Now, I'm not going to predict the market. So what I'm going to do is that if the US dollar continue to be strong next week, I'm going to play with it into an intraday movement. That means what I usually do is I go to London session, and if the dollar is strong, I'm just going to buy US dollar against a weak currency during a session trade. That will most likely be a shortened time frame, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. And, wrap everything up session by session just to make a few quick buck. But once I start seeing a pullback into a US dollar, into a relatively low area, that will give me a great chance to enter a real trade, which is a daily trade. And my daily trade, I risk a way much bigger percentage because I'm having more accuracy, a higher winning rate. So daily trade, I'm very, very patient about entering into a good position, good area, good fundamental factors, and then really making that pips. But, before that happened, I will always write down whatever happened in front of me. So that's what I do actually. So as you know, I have a few pretty bad risk event trade, and I realized in my last video I say I'm probably not going to trade it, but look at what happened in my cable pound yen trade. So it's really not about the risk events. It's really I gave myself such a too narrow range of stop loss. So I got into here to long and got stop out here in 15 minutes chart. But if you look at hourly chart, it's nothing. We actually keep going up and give me my target of 100 pips. So I could have made the profit if I give myself a bigger stop loss, a bigger room to breathe, basically. So it's really my personal management issue. It's nothing to do with whether the fundamental data is a fact. It's really my personal issue. So I should give myself a much bigger room to breathe, and that's my lesson to learn. Again, this is a new way style of trading for me, and I always constantly learning things. So I still going to trade risk events, but going to give myself a much bigger area to play out. I did have one winning trade after on Thursday. I had long US dollar, so I got into dollar yen. It's at 109.40. 109.40 right here, and there's actually no any specific reason. Like I say, I got into it at about 1 or 2 3 a.m. London session open. Just got into it since we're still at this mid PV point area. So for me, the reason to get into the trade is very simple. The US dollar continue to have strength, Japanese yen continue to losing strength, so it's just a sentiment play. So I'm buying into it, give myself about 100 pips stop loss, 100 pips target, and then I just go to sleep, basically, since I'm in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. Although I do like to stay awake, but sometimes I'm too tired, so I go to sleep. Next day, of course, things keep going up and reach my target. Just get out, make my my pips, and that's it. That's why I say, next week I'll do the exactly same thing. If the US dollar is continue to going up during the London session, of course I'm going to continue buying it in the intraday trade. So that way you can always make money in any way. You can play with the sentiment, short-term sentiment during the sessions, and then you can play with a daily reversal during a reversal trade. So you can make money in either way, but you just have to have a pretty good game strategy. So for me, next week, I don't know what's going to happen. I do expect you to see some pullback, but if US dollar decide to continue to go up, hey, that's great. I'm just going to keep buying it. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys. And let's see, I don't really have anything coming up weekly, daily. So I will come back next Monday to give you another daily analysis. But meanwhile, if you have any question, in terms of fundamental, sentimental, or exactly how I trade, feel free to ask. I'm here to help, and just let me know how you like to know more about this knowledge. Other than that, have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Thank you very much. Bye bye.